Now let's talk about paper and packaging and distribution, wholesale, retail, logistics. And here cardboard wins supreme. It has always done better than plastic and will continue to do so. It's adaptable, it's easy to use, it's strong, it's incredibly light, and it's sustainable. It comes from a growing resource which can be replaced. And when you finally can't recycle those cartons anymore, you can burn them, hopefully, and get the energy back that you would have burned if you'd burnt the tree. So this is a very exciting area, especially as global markets continue to grow and so on. The number of packaged goods will continue to grow exponentially as emerging markets begin to develop a more westernized style consumer culture. And into that comes RFID technology, radio frequency identification devices, these tiny chips the size of a grain of sand that have hardware, software, memory, you can read and write to them and so on. And they are being built into every carton, they will be built into every carton, into every roll of paper, into just about every paper product. You will be able to insert these chips, and these chips can be wired by printing aerials using magnetic ink that connect up automatically with the chips, and this can be done at incredibly low cost, and this means that you can identify every product, every package anywhere on the face of the earth. It means that you can tag every banknote, which has issues of privacy, and so on, but you're seeing up to 70% reduction in theft of cartons, up to 70% savings in terms of supply chain management, and so on. And finally, that brings us to environmental issues and the future. And the fact is that the stampede to control climate change has only just begun. 3 years ago, hardly any heads of state were even talking about climate change, and now almost every head of state is doing so almost every week. And this is a trend which will grow as the passions grow amongst consumers generally, and that is spreading to a general concern about packaging, waste, environmental efficiency, whether it's converting McDonald's expanded polystyrene packaging to go around a hamburger to cardboard packaging, whether it's companies like Tetra Pak moving us from plastic containers for liquid food and drink to cardboard cartons, which incidentally are much better in terms of storage capacity as well. When you have a square carton, there is no wasted space on the shelf. You've got a better surface to advertise on. It's altogether a much more efficient way to transport liquid around. Even so, the packages themselves do need some special recycling technology, because within this cardboard package there is a layer of plastic, in fact 2 layers of plastic and a layer of aluminium. But you can expect all kinds of changes in terms of the technologies in packaging, just as you can expect many towns and cities, and indeed entire countries, to ban the ubiquitous plastic bag that is given to people when they buy their shopping, or at least to make sure that people are charged for them. And what's going to replace it? Again, it'll be cardboard. It's just another example of where cardboard is winning. Now, the real pressure is on to produce very high-grade papers which are 100% recycled. And if we could do that, it would mean that, in theory, paper can be used round and round again without needing to cut down any more trees. Now, I know that's in theory, but as the industry itself becomes more efficient in terms of the amount of cardboard that it can recycle, the amount of paper that it can reuse, then we begin to see trees in a new way. And instead of seeing trees as primarily a resource for cardboard packaging, and then for paper, and then a bit for heat or energy, we may then begin to see trees much more in future as a renewable source for heating and lighting, for power generation and so on, and much less for just using on things like paper, which itself uses an awful lot of energy just to form it. In fact, if you're looking at the energy costs of the paper industry, then there are huge opportunities for saving. At the moment, in 2008, you need around 40 gigajoules of energy to produce a single metric ton of finished paper. Now, what does that mean? Well, to give you some idea, 22 gigajoules, which is only enough to produce half a ton of paper, is the same as 3.66 tons of CO2. So it's about 8 tons of CO2 to produce a ton of finished paper. That's a couple of tons of coal, 8 tons of CO2, 1 ton of finished paper. Now, those are rough calculations. It's not quite as bad as that, because at least 50 to 60% of the energy that's used can be recycled in various ways, recovered and so on. But this is an energy intensive process. So when you're thinking about cutting down a tree and converting it into paper, and then you're saying, oh, well, at least that preserves the tree, actually, yes, that's true. If you can recycle the paper and so on, then you're not cutting down a tree every time to make paper. But the fact is that huge amounts of energy nevertheless have been used in the manufacturing of that resource. So where does it go for the future? Well, you can expect, as they are behind me, literally thousands of small innovations that will make a big dent in the energy consumption of paper and packaging and so on. One of the cleverest ways to do this is not just to reduce the amount of energy used in the first place, but to convert the energy you use into other sources. So you might find that when you heat wood pulp, you recover that heat and that's used to heat your offices. Or it might be that a byproduct of one of the processes that you're using produces a waste product which can then be burnt in an incinerator and used to generate electricity and so on. So in these kinds of ways you can expect all kinds of new products and services to emerge, and they will do very well. So what's the slogan? It's making life easier. It's the ultimate paper and board slogan for individuals in terms of cost and convenience, for families, for the people who are close to you, for our communities, doing things in a community-sensitive way, a responsible way, and most importantly, for the whole environment, relieving the environmental load on our world, reducing the amount of plastics that we use to enable our world to be a more sustainable and prosperous place.